All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Conservatish, episode 88. My name is, God, 80 fucking 8.
Wow.
I cuss on the show. I hope you're all right
I'm
with that.
fine with that. I talk like a truck driver.
Perfect. And welcome to Conservatish, episode 88. My name is Peter Feliciano, and I'm your host. Let's see. New episode every Monday and Thursday. You can find me on Instagram, Peter_Feliciano, or on Facebook or on Twitter at Rule62Peter. You can also support this podcast at patreon.com/conservatish. And you can find me on August 17th at Brick and Mortar Music Hall, big album release party. Not all my music is very political, don't worry. Only like one or two dip in out of 9 songs. Mostly it's actually about Mexican prostitutes and fun things like that. But I'm almost as good at singing as I am at podcasting, and humility. So welcome. Our guest today is Lindsay Grathwohl.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming out.
I'm glad I was able to come out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I was first introduced to you actually a few weeks ago. Our mutual friend Jared said to look you up, that you're on the front lines of the free speech movement in the area, and that you're a scrappy lady, just like he's kind of a scrappy lady.
Yeah, he kind of is. Sorry, Jared, I love you.
You're all right.
We love you, Jared.
No, yeah, I've had him on my show 3 times. I love that guy.
He's a good guy.
Even my brother, I've had on him. He's been on about 3 times, and even though he's kind of liberal in a lot of ways, he loves Jared. You know, he's like, yeah, he thinks through his stuff, and he makes me think, and he's entertaining, and so it's I trust Jared's opinion to kind of push you forward as someone to have on, and so what's the main reason do you think Jared recommended you?
Well, probably because of, I'm out there. I'm on the front lines, like he says, but also probably because of my backstory.
Okay.
I have a pretty interesting backstory with my dad.
All right. So who was your dad?
So my dad was Larry Grathwohl. So Time magazine called him the only person to infiltrate the Weather Underground organization. They were
Weather Underground.
Yes. Do you have any idea who the Weather Underground is?
I'm a dumb man. I don't know who that is.
No, a lot of people don't, believe it or not. It's interesting because when I was in high school, I think 15 years old in history class, we learned briefly about the Weather Underground, but I don't think that it's taught in high school anymore.
Okay.
So anyways, Weather Underground organization was basically a domestic terrorist group. They splintered off of the SDS. That you might be familiar with. SDS, Students for a Democratic Society.
Okay.
They're still on college campuses today.
Okay.
So yeah.
What did the SDS do?
So the SDS, they're basically, back in the 60s, they were anti-war, anti-government, peace, love, hippies, that type of thing.
Sure.
But it really got, when the Vietnam War happened, there was the part of the SDS splintered off because they believed that they needed to do things more militantly, more violently.
Right.
Hence the Weather Underground, and they went around and they blew things up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So the Weather Underground, I believe was started, I want to say 69 is when they officially splintered off. Bernadine Dorn, she was considered the leader of the Weather Underground. She actually sends this pre-recorded message to a TV studio, and they play it out. You can actually go on Google, look it up, listen to it. It's pretty creepy because she's declaring war on the United States.
Oh,
basically,
fun.
Yeah. And that's the Weather Underground. That was the beginning of it. My dad got involved because after he got out of Vietnam, he went to the University of Cincinnati.
Okay.
And he was recruited by the Weather Underground.
Oh,
so that's how he got involved with it. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's really interesting. My dad, he's got a really interesting story. I wish that he was here to tell it. He tells it so much better than I do. He was 16 when he got into the Army. He enlisted when he was 16, was in Vietnam at 17, and spent his 18th birthday in Vietnam.
Okay.
He was in the 101st. He was Special Forces, so he was a badass.
Right.
But very humble about it. You never heard him talk about it or anything like that, really.
Right.
Came home, was a drill instructor for some time at Fort Knox, Kentucky, and then decided to use the GI Bill to further his education. And he had married his first wife, had some kids, and, wanted to, move back to Cincinnati with his family.
Okay.
Went to University of Cincinnati, was recruited by them. His father-in-law at the time happened to work for the Cincinnati Police Department. He was, I believe, a sergeant. And my dad, when he was recruited by these people, he was like, these people are nuts. I mean, he was like, they want us to go. They want us to cause everything you see Antifa doing right now is basically what the Weather Underground wanted to do, back then. I mean, they were trying to, cause violence with the cops, the things that you've seen in Berkeley, California.
Right.
That was what the Weather Underground was doing back then.
But it sounds like the Weather Underground was better at it. As awful as that is. It sounds like they were more, because I kind of see Antifa currently as kind of an ineffectual kind of, more of a tantrum type of thing. These guys seemed like they were actually militarized, like they had actual access to bombs and things like that.
They did. I mean, that's one of the reasons they recruited my father, him being in the military, him knowing how to build bombs and, all that kind of stuff. He was an asset to them. Plus, he was considered blue collar. And most people in the Weather Underground were not. They were scholars, they were lawyers, those types of things. My dad was not. They were.
Did your dad,
No, go ahead.
Did your dad know ahead of time, or was he actually with the cause when he first was?
He was never with the cause.
Okay.
And that's one of the things that people, I think, don't understand, too, is that, these days when you hear informant, it's usually somebody who was, with doing something bad with the group, has charges against them and spills the beans, right, is a snitch because they don't want to get in trouble. That was never my dad. My dad went to law enforcement and said, hey, these guys are crazy. I think you guys might want to do something. Cincinnati police said, keep going to meetings. We want to know what they're doing. And then they realized it was a bigger thing because it was not just in Cincinnati. It was a national thing, and that's when the FBI got involved.
Okay.
So that's when Cincinnati police turned my dad, and everything over to the FBI, and then my dad started working directly for the FBI.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, when did the Weather Underground ever? Were they ever suspicious of him?
Yes. Well, they were of everybody. They used to do, they didn't trust anybody. It's very similar to now. From what I'm hearing, I've been able to talk with people who are, get in with Antifa and BAM and those organizations, and they're very, they vet everybody. I mean, you aren't going to get to know what's really going on unless, they trust you. So it's very similar to that.
Right.
But back in the 60s, at least what the Weather Underground did was they did these, what they called self-criticism sessions. And it's kind of similar to what goes on now from what I hear.
Okay.
The only thing is that they used drugs. They used LSD and things like that to get people to break.
I see.
So in my dad's book, actually, he writes about that experience because they went after him during that criticism session, and basically, they were trying to get him to say that he was a pig, and he actually he pocketed, somehow he was able to palm the acid, because he was like, if I would have taken that, it would have been over.
Right.
It just would have been over.
Right.
So he palmed it, and he's at the time he was like, I didn't know what else to do except to get up and start. He acted like a pig. He started squealing like a pig and saying, yeah, I am a pig. I am a pig. And at that point, they thought he was so fucked up.
Right.
That, and they didn't think anything else of it.
Right.
So he was able, and my dad would have been able to probably stay longer than he did if it wasn't the FBI made some probably really bad decisions from what I've heard.
Okay.
And they wanted to go in. They thought that they could, get everybody at the certain date and time. And my dad said, if you do this, my cover is going to be blown. It's over. And he was the only one at the time that was in there, and it was true. It once that arrest happened, and it was like multiple. It happened in New York, multiple. My dad, Linda Evans, Mark Rudd was there. He was another Weather Underground leader, but he got away that day, and that blew my dad's cover. It was over, 1970. So my dad was with them for about 9 months.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
And does he still feel like? He still feels like if he had a little bit more time, he could find more of the leaders.
Well, my dad passed away in 2013.
Okay.
I do believe that my dad believed that if he would have been given more time with the Weather Underground, he probably could have brought them down. They were responsible for many bombings, many of them that they will tell. They gladly take responsibility for. They will not take responsibility for the Park Police Station bombing that happened here in San Francisco.
Okay.
Because Sergeant McDonald died. And of course, there's no statute of limitations on murder. That's still open. But my dad and about 5 other people were very well aware and testified under oath that Bernadine Dorn was the one who actually placed the bomb on the window ledge at the Park Station.
Jeez.
So, the FBI made some mistakes. They did some illegal wiretapping. That was back when Deep Throat, if you're familiar with that, my dad met him, Mark Felt, because my dad testified before Congress at the same time all that stuff was going on. And it was all because of those illegal wiretappings and stuff that all the evidence against the Weather Underground got thrown out. All that, that evidence.
Right.
But there's still evidence here in San Francisco. There was a bomb factory on Pine Street, I believe, and they found gloves. They found fence staples, which was the shrapnel they used inside the bombs. And there's now, they had a task force in about 2010, 2011, and my dad was a part of that. It got shut down, of course, with Obama and Eric Holder. But the FBI was hoping, with all the advances in technology like DNA testing, the way they can get fingerprints now off of latex gloves with super glue, stuff like that, they were hoping that they could get, more evidence and finally bring someone to justice for that. But again, Obama put an end to that. And
what was the reasoning he gave for
it? We never got one. It just all of a sudden, my dad used to fly out here probably every 4 months. He was meeting with them. And doing other things out here in California because he lived in Cincinnati, but he would fly back and forth, and he would call the head of, it was called the Phoenix Task Force is what they named it. And he never got an answer. To my knowledge, he never got an answer as to why. Right. But we just assumed that it was Barack Obama had something to do with it because Barack Obama was friends with Bill Ayers and Bernadine, and there's too many connections. It's not a coincidence.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm meeting more people. My last episode with Kevin McGarry, Black Trump supporter, founder or chairman of the FDF of California. Great episode, great conversation, and he was a big anti Obama guy, and I guess being just a lowly libertarian, still dipping my toes. I haven't done a lot of research on why Obama on things that are shitty about Obama. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I just have never and it's interesting hearing from people who are knowledgeable about it instead of just assuming, well, yeah, he probably didn't. Like as an example, what's that thing? The with Obama and Hillary, the Middle East, they didn't call
the Benghazi thing.
There we go. Thank you.
Yeah, that whole debacle.
Right.
That was just unbelievably sad. It's sad.
Right.
Barack Obama. My dad. One of the reasons my dad wrote a book back in 1974 after he got out of the FBI and all that. Wrote a book about his time with the Weathermen. And pretty much, I think for a while, my dad kind of believed that the Weathermen, went away. There was really nothing, no bombs, nothing going on. It wasn't until 2008. It was me. I was raised in a, conservative family, very political. And so I'm watching all this on TV and wondering, who is this guy who's beating Hillary Clinton? Because Hillary Clinton, I thought for sure was a shoo-in. It was like, there's no way that any of these other yahoos are going to beat her, And here's this guy. Who is he? Like, where did he come from? That was my big question. Who is this guy?
Right.
And so I wanted to know. Who he was. So I started looking him up. And I called my dad. I said, Dad, you need to look into this. I said, this guy is friends with Bill Ayers. He started his political career started in the living room of Bill Ayers and Bernardine Dorn, which are the two leaders of the Weather Underground.
Okay.
I mean, I could go on. They worked on the Annenberg Challenge together. They say during the election, Obama said, "Oh, we were just two people in the neighborhood." That was bullshit. That was bullshit. It was lies the whole time.
Okay.
And so my dad, I said, you are obligated. I was just like so fired up. I said, you are obligated to come out and you need to tell people that this is blatant fucking lies. I mean, I was really angry. Because Obama was, I mean, he was good. He was a good talker. Even I believed some of the bullshit that he said, but I knew it was bullshit. And so my dad came out, and he came out. We did some protests out here. Bill Ayers was actually out here speaking at St. Mary's. We protested him. My dad tried to confront him, and Bill Ayers ran away. He never would confront my father. My dad was on Hannity. He was on, I mean, I can't tell you how many different shows. He was on InfoWars so many different times. The list is long, and it's all, you can find it on Google, but he did everything that he could to wake people up and say, hey, if this man becomes president of the United States, we're fucked. We're screwed. And it's funny, and I don't talk about this very often because I don't want people to think of me as being one of those snowflakes in the street. But when Obama was elected, I cried.
Right.
Because I was scared to death. Because I was just like knowing who this man was and everything that we uncovered about him, and we did a lot of research. Scared the shit out of me, and I cried. And my dad told me that. I called him, and I don't know what we're gonna do. And he's like, we're going to give him a chance. He's our president. We give him a chance,
Right.
So we know he's an asshole, but
Right.
we're still going to, he's our president. We're going to give him a chance.
Right. Actually, I had an ex-girlfriend call me when Trump was elected, crying that night, and she was like, I can't believe this can happen. And that was, at that point, I hadn't voted for Trump. I had voted for Bernie, and then I voted for Hillary because I was like, all right, well, I don't like her, but I don't like,
Didn't want Trump.
Didn't want Trump.
Right.
And so I voted for Hillary, and I had already been thinking about, like, I don't think this is all that, it's not that bad. And that's what I told her. I was like, this is not the end of the, it's not like he's going to start locking up women and, this is not the end of the, like, it's not that big a deal, but for her it was. And, she and I don't talk as much as we used to, but it may still be a big deal for her. But, I understand the fear, I understand the reaction.
Yeah. And I kind of did understand, like, when I went to work the next day and I was, gleaming from ear to ear, and everybody else in my job was practically in tears, and you could tell who voted for Trump that day and who did. I mean, it was very obvious, very solemn day at my job. But I wasn't gonna be a jerk and be like, haha, MAGA,
Right. Our team won.
Yeah, I'm not like that. But as time wore on, and I started to see the violence that was coming out, it started getting worse, and it's escalating over hat. I'm like, this is a fucking hat. How, like, I'm all, how many people I saw wearing Obama shirts that it offended me, and I didn't like Barack Obama, but I didn't ever go up to somebody and say anything to them, because that's their freedom. I mean, that's one of the beauties of this country, is that they have a right to do that.
Absolutely.
Just like if they want to wear a shirt with the communist flag on it. I don't like commies, but that's their right to do that.
Their right to do that.
So that's where I've always been. I may not like it, but if I don't like it, I just don't have to listen to it.
Right.
But these people, that I started seeing come out, like Antifa and stuff, it was like they purposely would come out to our events and try to shut it down. It's like, oh, and that was like, I'm like, no. This is not going to happen. Right.
Like all that stuff happening at Evergreen College.
Did you see all,
oh my God. Just watching the video of them trying to shut down. I don't know if there's those who don't know the story. Please look it up. It's delicious. Yes. But Brett Weinstein was a teacher, a professor at Evergreen College in Oregon. I believe. Washington? I don't know. One of those damn states. Same thing. And the students normally, they had this day of where black people and people of color could recuse themselves and stand back from going to school because, as solidarity of, bad white people. And then they switched around that year, a few years ago, and said, okay, white people don't come to school. And that's where that professor, Brett, was like, I don't really think that's a good idea. I'm going to go to class and I'm going to talk, because that changes things from like a voluntary decision of a person of color to not go to school in some sort of remembrance or some sort of protest or whatever. That's rock and roll, but that changes things when you're telling white people who want to go to class not to come to class, or white staff to not come to the class. The videos of them shouting him down in a mob, literally a mob. The videos of Weinstein talking about this whole experience and how he was they were chasing him on, and trying to find him, where is he at on campus. These little kids with daddy and mommy's money completely losing their mind on this.
Yep.
It is definitely really scary. And that's one of those things where it was like, that's what has, more than anything, changed my mind when it comes to becoming more conservative, more libertarian than I was, because I just assumed, of course I'm a liberal, because that's the right thing to do. I don't know.
Right.
That's what's changed my mind, is watching the reactions, is watching how these people who are moving right are not doing it because they hate black people, but they hate women, or they just don't want to be told that they're bad. They're sick of feeling guilty. They're sick of being sold something that they know is bullshit, and so they're like, you know what? No, I'm gonna say whatever the hell I want to say. I'm gonna, you know what? Let me actually research this. It's actually, I really genuinely believe that Trump is absolutely going to win 2020, and it's going to be because they've even doubled down with all these dummies on the Democratic debates speaking Spanish. Don't sell to me. I'm not stupid.
Right.
People are not stupid. If you're trying to sell to us, we're like, ugh, I don't want that.
No, and yeah, it's very scary. I've never seen anything like it. I'm 40. I'll be 41 next week.
Congratulations.
So thank you. I never thought when I was in high school, I was like, oh no, I never want to be 40. But here I am. And I never, to me, it's like, I guess people need, for me, it's like I tell people it's like the Twilight Zone for me, because growing up, my dad told me these things were going to happen, a lot of these different things. And, 20, 30 years ago, people laughed at my dad. They said he was crazy. They called him racist, all the same things that we're hearing about us, same things I've kind of grown up with almost all my life. But I never really believed that it would, it's happened to me so fast. It's such a quick shift.
You mean mentally, or do you mean what's been
just what's going on
the protests?
What's going out on the street, the hatred, the true hatred that I see from people. I've tried to talk with people, I'm not racist. Never been racist. These lies that people, I watched the other night, Hillary's America. If you haven't seen it, it's a really good movie by Dinesh D'Souza. And
I do like Dinesh.
You have to watch it. Oh my God, he was funny. I went and saw him in Napa the other night. He was hilarious. He's really good. But that movie really tells you the history of the Democratic Party and, and us. And it's like, I've always been a Republican. I consider myself more of a constitutionalist now than anything. Okay, straight up.
Where's that line? And we'll get back to what's that line for you?
I'm really getting irritated with the Republican Party in California, just because the California GOP, a lot of them they're like the elite. They're the people that are, in my opinion, are part of the problem. Okay. And, it's like Rhino Republicans. I believe it's time for we the people like you and me. Maybe not you and me directly, but people who want to run for office that are regular, everyday people, because that's what our forefathers meant for it to be. They didn't mean for it to be career, jobs like what we're seeing now.
Right.
They never meant for that. I mean, I grew up, my dad was very passionate about teaching me these things. We would stay up for hours. We were very close and talked about, you know, he believed that a civil war was going to happen. He believed that it was going to happen within my lifetime. He didn't think he was going to live to see it. And then when he passed away, you know, and all this stuff started to happen, my mom and I were just like, what the, you know, it was like, what the fuck? And I was driven. It was like, my mom was so scared for me to go out and do what I'm doing. But I said, how can I not? Right. I'm like, how can I not? I know exactly what's going on. I know exactly who's behind half of this shit. The weathermen, I mean, there's been articles written that I believe it was the March 4th protest in Berkeley that, you know, fires and all that stuff went down. I think it was Milo.
Yeah.
Bill Ayers was there. He's a coward, so he wasn't in the street with Antifa, but he was out handing posters for everybody to do. So these people, they have money, they have power, and they're pulling the strings on these little Antifa people and BAM and all that. Right. And I'm like, I'll be damned if I'm going to sit back and let these people win. I'm not going to let it happen.
Yeah.
And I'm a thorn in their side. They don't like it.
I love being a thorn in sides. Anyone who listens to this podcast, that's my favorite thing in the world, is to just be like, you know, I always say my favorite comedians, Patrice O'Neill, he shot it everywhere. He made fun of whites, he made fun of blacks, he made fun of women, he made fun of, you know,
everybody.
Bitchy men. Frank Zappa, he made fun of hippies, and he made fun of the, you know, white, you know, stuffy white people. He made fun of everybody. Shot it everywhere. The minute you tell me I'm not allowed to think something or say something, that's when I'm real doubling down. Yep. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna stick the fuck out then. Yeah. I love it. It's my favorite thing in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I tell people, like, trying to talk with people, I mean, immediately, you know, they see my Trump shirt, or they see that, you know, I'm wearing a flag or whatever it is, and I'm, you know, I'm a Nazi, I'm a racist. Right. I had a march for Kate Steinle a couple of years back here in the city.
Kate Steinle.
Yeah, Kate Steinle was the woman who was murdered at the pier here in San Francisco by the illegal. Right. And so we did when he was basically, I mean, he was let off, we decided that we wanted to do something, and so we did a march in San Francisco. And immediately I was labeled a racist because of that. I'm like, it has nothing to do with I don't care if he's Mexican. I don't care if he's from Asia. I don't care. I don't care. The fact is that if he wasn't here, that would not have happened. Right. He was deported, I forget how many times.
Yeah, I think it was like 3 or 4.
At least. You know, and I'm like, that's my point. I don't, it's not about the race. I have many friends. I used to work in a Mexican restaurant. Many friends that came here that were not documented, and I made friends with them. Right. And a lot of them have done it the right way, and it's taken them a long time to do it. But you know what? I am very proud of them, and I mean, I have mad respect for them. And the ones that I have friends that are undocumented, I let them know how I feel. I don't agree, but it's like, but the ones I have one friend right now. I have to talk about this because I work with him, and he's a really good friend, and his wife has cancer, and they're both from Mexico. They're both legal. It took them years to become legal. And you know, she's been through this cancer diagnosis, I think 2 times. This is the 3rd, and it's terminal. Okay. He's working. He you know, pays into the system. He's got insurance through our job, all that stuff. But he's going into debt because he's paying for all, you know, I mean, a lot of the stuff is not covered. Right. And he's watching Gavin Newsom get on TV talking about giving these undocumented people free health care. And he was like, he told me, I should have never become legal. Like, I would have had better off. So, you know, he's all, I would never have done that because I have, you know, I respect this country. But that even, you know, and he's like, it's not that I don't feel bad for these people, but we have to be taking care of our own people first. Right. You know, we have. And
he's one of our own.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
He's American.
Right.
He's an American, and his wife. You know, and you know, and I know that things have gotten really strict at the border because of all this stuff. He's trying to get. His family has visas to come over here for like 6 months out of the year, but they can't, get to apply for, I think, special circumstance visas. It's hard right now because of what's going on at the border.
Right.
And he said by the time I get through all of that and pay the fees, he's worried that his wife's going to already be gone. So it's like, what's the point? And, and that's sad to me. That's sad. Right. Here's this guy who busts his ass. Right. He's an American citizen.
Right.
He's an immigrant.
Right. And
our system's not helping him at all.
Right. I have a friend who's been on the show multiple times. His name's Mike the Southerner, on the show anyway. I love him, but he wears, just to put it out there, he does wear golf uniforms and socks that are multicolored. I hate you, Mike. Just to let you know, you're a loser. I love you, but you're a horrible person. Anyway, so Mike was telling me a story on the first time he was on the show about a guy that he works with who is a Mexican immigrant, did it the right way, and is a big MAGA Trump supporter. Like a big old MAGA Trump supporter because of that very reason. Because it's like, I did it the right way. The other thing is, too, is if I went to Germany, and I told these Antifa kids, these if I went to Germany and I just expected, where are the burger places? You know what I mean? Like, why isn't this sign in English? Like, if I just assume, give me healthcare. I don't have a job right now. Give me stuff. I would be labeled, even by the Antifa kids, as a douchebag.
Yeah.
Why would we assume that just because they're brown, that brown people can't be douchebags? Like, right. I'm half brown. Like, I know tons of brown people who are fucking douchebags.
I know a lot of white people that are douchebags.
Yeah, because humanity is humanity. And
exactly.
It's the racism of liberalness that says, oh, they're brown, they can't do anything bad. That bothers me.
No, I've even seen things recently where they're teaching, this is in college campuses where they're teaching people that white people are born racist, that we're born racist.
What about me? I'm halvesies. Does that mean I'm half racist? You know what I mean? Like,
I must be half breed. Right. Exactly. It's really getting ridiculous. And I tell people all the time, I'm as white as can be as far as my skin goes. But my family, I'm third generation here from Portugal. So if you see some of my family members, you would be like, you're not related to them, Lindsay. They're dark.
Right.
Dark.
Right.
But, it's and my family actually worked in the sugarcane fields. I heard stories about my great grandpa talking about it. Right. So it's like, but, again, it's who's been through worse. I'm not going to have that fight with these people. Right. Like, on the I don't agree with it. I'm not going there. No. And I
really believe that we're not. I know that reparations are not going to happen, and I know that the most of it is just, that's the thing about, like you were saying about these when politics is a career, when you get in at 25, 30, and that's just your ticket to stability for the rest of your life, because as long as I get the job, as long as I keep my job, then you'll say anything. Like all those kids, or all those people who all raised their hand, all the Democrats in the debate who all raised their hand, free 100%, health care for immigrants. I don't think they actually believe that. They just really want the vote. Just like what's his face speaking Spanish. They just really want the vote. They just really want to wave that flag of please, please give me what I want. Please, please give me attention, give me approval so that I can have the stability. And sure, they have also, even if it was good intentioned, which I don't believe it really is, even if it was good intentions, it's still, please let me have, because I know what's best. Right. You know what I mean? And ultimately, not that I think Trump is without bad intentions sometimes, not that I think he's not kind of an emotional child from time to time, or can be a douchebag. At least you know what you're getting.
Yeah. You
and at least he hasn't been in politics since he was 30, just looking to keep the job. Like a perfect example of that, you saw the stuff last month or a few weeks ago with Jon Stewart.
Yeah.
In Congress and all those, the Congress, for that hearing, Congress most of those people didn't even show up. Because, I have my job. You know what I mean?
Right.
My job now is to keep my job because it's coming up for re-election in 2 years, 4 years. So my whole job is to keep my job, to go to these parties and get these things and get these donations, and and then make these promises, and then get in and eventually, kind of go golfing and hang out, maybe, and then, it's time to go get my job and keep my job. I just, humanity, the way we've set it up needs to kind of shift and change. And I think Trump's done a kind of a good job of being a thorn in sides, when we need it.
He needs to. I think people, it's a good wake-up call at the very least. I know my grandmother doesn't, my grandmother's in her 90s. She hears, Trump swear during a rally, and she has, about has a stroke. Right. But me and my mom are both like, we need it. It's time. Yeah. Like, honestly, with the amount of shit that man puts up with, if it was me, I'd be up there swearing at all of them. I'd be like this, flipping everybody off. That's why I'm not a politician. Right. I don't have the temperament for it. Right. There's just no way. But I think overall he's done. But do I agree with everything he's done? No, absolutely not. No. And people
because
think
you're a human being,
right?
That's fucking. When it was Bush and when it was Bush and these other, sure, there was a lot of people like, Republican equals racist, even back in 2000.
Oh, I know, I remember.
But at least I heard this phrase, the lesser of two evils, and we utilized it. Since 2016, that phrase has been completely deleted. Once you're labeled a Trump supporter, you just 100%, are crazy MAGA, and not necessarily. Like I've said, there are some things he's done that I'm like, like when he was calling for stopping the burning of the flag. That's one thing I don't agree with him on. Yeah. I think you should be allowed to burn the flag.
Do I like it? I don't like watching it. No, but I agree with you. I also agree, it goes both ways, like with the full, that's a form of expression. Yeah. Free expression. And I agree with you on that. Same with the speech, this hate speech bullshit. Right. What happened to when we were kids, I'm made of rubber, you're made of glue, whatever, you know what I mean? That type of thing,
But brown people can't protect themselves. It's the racism of the left.
Exactly. It's really turned into this... but here's the thing, and this is, I guess, where I'm just, sometimes I'm in awe of it. I can't, when I'm watching the debates, and everyone's like, on the conservative side, how can you watch the debates, Lindsay? People are always questioning me whether I'm a true conservative, which cracks me up because I've been a conservative since I could vote, okay? Right. I've always been registered Republican. And I come from a conservative family, but I'm just like, okay, so you're going to question me. So I'm watching the Democratic debate. That makes me not a conservative. No, that makes me pretty actually educated because I'm studying my enemy and I want to know exactly what they think, why they're doing what they're doing, what their arguments are behind it, so that when people come at me, I'm ready.
You're prepared. Right?
I'm prepared. I'm like, there's nothing wrong with that. Does it make me sick to watch a lot of it? Absolutely. Do I want to watch Kamala Harris? Absolutely not. I can't stand her.
She's annoying.
All of them are. There was a couple of them actually.
Who's more annoying, Kamala or Booker? I think Booker more, because he's so much more angry about it. You know what I mean? So much more. Kamala could be more a victim. Yeah, annoying, but he's just vindictive annoying.
Yeah, I think out of the two of them, I think maybe I just don't like her more because she's here. She's one of ours, you know what I mean? California. Right. And to me, I'm so tired of the California swamp. Mm-hmm. I call it California. It's not even California anymore to me. It's California. Right. So, but no, he annoys the crap out of me. The whole Spanish thing, that I got lost when they started speaking Spanish the other night. I was like, are you serious right now? And they all were repeating the same thing over and over. But it was like, well, I would, I like abortion more. No, I like abortion more. Right. And it's like, do you guys hear what you guys are saying right now?
And what's his face with the, I'm the only person who has raised a black son. What was his fucking name?
Oh, it was the
Buttigieg.
No, it was
De Blasio.
Yes, it was the New York guy. Yes.
De Blasio.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm the only one who's raised a black son, and Booker's just like, I'm black, who's gonna posture the best, and that's why Trump is gonna win, because Trump is just like, there's something weirdly, almost Jim and Sam kind of, I listen to almost every day, illegally on YouTube, and one of the things they brought up is that Trump almost has this weird, like, no offense, this weird, like, autism, where, like, it just kind of rolls off, where it doesn't, like, he's flexed that muscle of just, like, instead of going, like, no, instead of being like that, he's just like, well, you're ugly, and you're he said, oh, dumb, Pocahontas and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Like, the way he comes up with stuff just cuts right through
everything.
And someone who's a practiced politician is not prepared for the fight.
No.
Not prepared for the fight.
Not
You
at
need
all.
to be a New York comedian to be prepared for the fight, and you're just not going to win.
He's changed it up. I mean, he really has. He's not a politician.
Right.
He's not. And I agree with you. I think that he's gained more support. I mean, I know just people that I know that are Democrats. I know a lot of Democrats that are going to be voting for Trump in 2020. So, but I also believe that the Democrats are desperate. They are desperate. I mean, you're watching and I'm watching. We're all watching. The whole country right now is watching this downward spiral of the Democratic Party.
And the douche chills is just overwhelming. They're just like you're selling your ass that much?
Yeah.
Like, do you have a soul? Do you have integrity?
No.
You know what I mean? You're just like tap dancing super fast, whether they're white or black. Just tap dancing faster. Oh, I really believe for free immigration, free healthcare, and I love abortion. Like, no one put when they asked Booker, I think, about okay, what percentage is appropriate? What's her face wants 70% after you make 10 million, 70% tax rate to the government. Okay, what do you think is appropriate? Do you think 70% is appropriate? And instead, Booker's just like in Spanish, not answering the fucking question. Answer the question. It's just sad, man.
It is sad. It's really, I mean, we're watching the end. I honestly believe that Hillary's run was the last run of the Democrats, if you want to look at the old Democrat. But even then, she was, I mean, it's shifted really a lot over. I think one of the things that I've noticed in the past 12 years is just they started out with progressive. We're progressive. Everything's progressive, social justice, blah, blah, blah. Then it turned into, now we're into socialist. We're like, everything's socialist. That's great. Socialism is wonderful. Bernie used to praise Venezuela, and look at Venezuela right now. And in the streets of Berkeley, I've heard them chanting for communism. I mean, I have it on video. We got it. And so, I mean,
well, they're not even hiding it anymore.
No, they're not. It's not even hidden anymore. It used to be hidden. They would hide it. I'd be like, progressive, that sounds pretty Marxist to me. I mean, and no, we don't go there. Now it is. I mean, they're all out talking about Marxist. I mean, I think it was today, or was it yesterday? I think it was Teen Vogue put out an article about Karl Marx. You need to look it up. And people started losing their shit over it, because it was like, I mean, they were talking about, that it's a good thing, that, his ideals were good. And this is Teen Vogue.
Right.
And so I'm like, but I'm not surprised, because again, like this is, I mean, me and my dad, we used to sit down and have our own little talks and stuff, and deep talks about.
You know what I imagine you and because I just watched Terminator 2 for the first time in a long, long time.
Yeah?
That's why I imagine, like, your dad is Sarah Connor, and you're, like, I'm going to teach you how to fight, and I'm going to teach you.
That was, I mean,
Anyway,
that's kind of like what it was. I mean, we would talk and we would have really deep discussions about all this, and what, his thoughts and his beliefs were of how things were going to air out. And one of the things that scared me the most was back in, I think it was 2010, when I think it was Alex Jones or somebody released the FEMA, the FEMA camps, where you've seen all those FEMA camps where they have like the coffins, they're plastic coffins, and now they're using these same places. They're converted Walmarts. They're using them for the immigration. I don't know if you've seen that. Right. Well, those are they're like FEMA camps. Okay. Well, my dad, one of the things that the Weathermen discussed back in '69, they had a big, huge meeting. It was like a conference in Flint, Michigan, and they talked about taking over the United States government by, revolutionary force, and, splitting up territories. And my dad said, well, what are we going to do with people that are capitalists that don't want to be, to live in this new world, this new, utopia. And they're like, well, we're going to have to re-educate them. And my dad said, well, what if they can't be re-educated? There's certain people that are just not going to be re-educated, right? And they were like, well, we're going to have to eliminate them. And after they discussed it and the logistics, they figured they'd have to eliminate 25 million Americans. And these are people that were serious. I mean, and you hear my dad talk about it. And my dad was younger than me now.
Right.
Like, he was in his 20s when he did this documentary. And I'm looking at today, and I'm seeing my friends. I mean, I had someone someone kicked out of a Facebook group and said, you're a Trump supporter. You should be ostracized from society.
Right.
So, I mean, here we are. Here
Right.
we are.
Right.
Like, here living, I've been born and raised in the Bay Area. It's always been, to be a conservative hasn't been the popular way ever in the Bay Area. Mm-hmm. Not in my lifetime. But it was never scary to be a Republican. Never. Now, it is scary to be a Republican. Like, you have to worry.
I think that's part of the reason why they're doubling down. Why the Democrats are doubling down on this is because their studying is false. Because they're studying, all their little groups, all their teams are going, no, I'm telling you, double down, get even more progressive, even more left.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because when they ask us, when they poll us, even behind closed doors, someone who is secretly feeling like, oh, I kind of like Trump, is not going to answer that. And so they'll just circle the box, yeah, let everybody in. Oh, yeah, okay, fine, abortion, yeah, oh, they'll just answer because they don't want to, either they're doing it intentionally because, like, I'm not joining that shit. There are a lot of listeners right now who listen to my podcast every week who are slowly opening up to, like, fuck, I kind of like Trump. And listen, it's not because you hate black people.
No, it's not.
You're okay. You're allowed to like Trump. It's okay. You're not racist. You're morally okay. It's all right. Come into the boat, Papa. I'm half Puerto Rican, so you can feel good about it. A half Puerto Rican who likes gay people is telling you to like Trump. It's okay. I really feel like that's it's what's going to sink them. I don't know what's going to come out of it. You know what I mean? Because I can't imagine doing 6 more years of Trump and then going back to Hillary, going back to a version of a politician like that.
It's scary. It scares me. And that's one of my problems that I've been having with the Republican Party is I'm like, okay,
I see. Yeah.
I mean, I'm all for Trump 2020, but we need to start thinking now. Who's the next one? Who's going to run after Trump? Right. Because it isn't Pence. Pence is not the one.
He's kind of a creepy guy, to tell you.
He's not the one. I'm telling you right now, he's not the one. He would lose to anybody the Democrats put up there because the Democrats put on one hell of a show. Right. And Republicans tend to be, stiff. And I mean, it just is. That's usually how it is.
Trump's not afraid to fight.
He's not. And that's why I think you see a lot of Republicans and people that, conservatives that normally wouldn't come out. They feel like, we have a president now who's got some balls. Right. Not saying thing up front and then behind closed doors doing something different. Right, He's, kind of pretty transparent as presidents go. Right. And so I think, but I mean, then, every time there's an attack on one of us or, something happens, that also puts us backwards because people are afraid. And I don't blame them. It's scary. I mean, I won't bring my kids to a rally. Right. I mean, I'd love nothing more to, but I can't because I can't take that chance.
So let's talk about that a little bit. So you started after your dad passed away. Mm-hmm. Is that about when you started being a little bit more rally-ish?
Yeah, with my dad. So with my dad when he was alive, I did a lot of stuff behind the scenes for him. So I did a lot of research for him. That was when Facebook started becoming a thing, and my dad was not social media, old school. He had a flip phone. I still have his phone. It's a flip phone. So I took care of all the research, and I found, it worked really well. And he was a great speaker. He did all that stuff. And then when he passed away, I was very depressed, didn't want shit to do with the world. And then, Trump, the whole Trump thing started. I really believed and it probably was because I was in a funk from losing my dad, but I didn't think Trump was going to win. I was like, there's no way he's going to win. I mean, I voted for the man, but I was like, there's no way he's going to, he's not going to beat Hillary.
Right.
Like, Hillary's a machine. Like, she didn't win last time. You know what I mean? This is her time. And but my mom kept on telling me, and my mom was going through breast cancer treatments at this time. And, and so she, was sick a lot. And she was having dreams, and she kept telling me, Lindsay, your dad's coming to me in my dreams, and he's telling me Trump is going to win.
Nice.
And over and over and over. And I laughed at her. I was like, okay, Mom, okay. Right. But she was right. And my son, I was afraid to stay up that night. I did not want to watch the polls because in the past with Obama, I had watched where the Republicans were actually ahead, and then, Obama would just sweep, by the end of the evening. So I was like, I don't want to go through that. It's too emotional for me. My son stayed up. My son he's 12 now. So he was 10 years old, and very excited. And he stayed up and he was like, Mom, they called it. He won it. I mean, I was up half the night. I was in disbelief. It was like, oh, this is amazing. So, and that's when I started seeing all this stuff going on. Berkeley happened. And I was like, no, I had seen what happened in San Jose at the Trump rally where they were beating people up that were coming out of the Trump rally. I saw that. But at the time, I didn't put two and two together. I don't think at that time, I didn't really know who Antifa was, to be honest with you. I knew who Occupy was. I knew that the Weathermen were involved with Occupy movement, but I had no idea about Antifa. And so then people were talking about Antifa and who they were. And when I saw them, I mean, it was like, these are the Weathermen. These are like the Weathermen, but you're right, less organized. So, I mean, it's actually a very organized, the way that they have it, because they do have people on top, and of course different cities are organized better. Portland is organized really good. They're organized by unions.
They have a lot of homeless people there.
Well, and
I lived in Portland for 3 years. There's a lot of homeless motherfuckers up there.
There is. I know. I saw them when I was up there. I was up there last year,
Not
actually.
as much as San Francisco, but
yeah, but it's a lot. Yeah. But the unions up there, the money and the people that are in the unions, they're funding Antifa up there. So it's very, very organized up there. We found we did a lot of research on that. With that Antifa documentary that I was in, that Trevor Loudon did. I don't know if you've seen that, but it's really good. It's got Milo and Lauren Southern.
What is it called? And where can people
Antifa,
find it?
America Under Siege. It's free. You can go on the YouTube. You can go to Dangerous Documentaries and find it. Nice. Look up America Under Siege. It's a series. So it has Antifa, and then there's a couple others. I'm in the Antifa one. Trevor Loudon is awesome. He wrote The Enemies Within. He's really great. But, nice. I mean, I saw this stuff happening, and I was like, I was inspired to have rallies. I was like, well, I've lived here all my life. This is San Francisco. This is supposed to be the most, free speech, right. Tolerance, right? You hear the mayors and everyone talk, and you would think this is like the place to go if you want to be accepted, no matter who you are. Right. Doesn't matter. Well, not if you're a Trump supporter. Right. Or a Republican. Right. You're not accepted. So I wanted to have a rally, and we tried. We tried to have one at Crissy Fields back in 2017. We actually did. I had went up to Portland, and that inspired me even more. That was my very first, I guess, big rally, so to speak. And I had met Joey Gibson from Patriot Prayer, and I had met a lot of people, and I was like, let's do something in San Francisco. I want to do it. So we found Crissy Field. I thought Crissy Field would be great. It's federal property. They have to protect us, blah, blah, blah. Nice. That actually ended up being our downfall. Oh, no. Yeah, it did. It turned out. So Charlottesville happened. 2 weeks before our event. And so once our event wasn't actually getting any kind of, we had about 150 people that were planning on coming. We had 2 events going on. We called it Liberty Weekend. We were doing an event in the city here, and then we were going to do an event in Berkeley the next day. And so we had quite a bit of people that were coming out, but it didn't gain any national notoriety until Charlottesville. And then Nancy Pelosi got on TV. Called us all white supremacists.
I remember that.
That was my idea. I mean, I came up with it. I reached out to Joey and Will Johnson. Joey got the permit. That's why Patriot Prayer got slammed so hard, was because their name was on the permit. So they were kind of like, he was the front man, I guess, so to speak. But it was never, I mean, it was like, it was never ever intended to be anything what they said it was. It was supposed to be, my intent is this is a tolerant city. We need to get people to come together and actually have discussions. Why can't we start healing? Because obviously with the election, obviously people were pretty upset. I saw it on TV, people screaming, crying, whatever. Let's heal, okay? You guys have had your temper tantrums. This was in August of 2017. Like, now let's try to come together. This is free speech. So any of it, I mean, there were a lot of different people coming. We didn't have any white supremacists coming to speak. Everything that they said was going to happen was not. They made it in, and they actually put our lives in danger, and they made it to the point where we had to cancel because and because Nancy Pelosi is federal, she has a say over they can't deny you a permit for free speech, like on federal land, for like any kind of event. They can't deny it, but they can make your life hell and make it very difficult for you.
Paperwork wise, permit wise.
Oh, we got the permit. We had everything, but what they did is they had told us originally that they were gonna, because they knew what it had turned into. It turned into a total shit show mess. They knew we were at this point, by the time it reached national news, we probably had 300 or 400 people that were planning on coming. Out of those people, we had a percentage of them that were older, that we didn't want to have, any Antifa interaction. Well, it wasn't the city of San Francisco, but it was basically the park didn't turn their head at Antifa creating 2 events surrounding ours. So they put us in a certain area and they were going to cage us in, and literally we were caged in because behind us was the bay. And we were going to be surrounded by Antifa, and they told us originally they were going to bus us in. We were going to be able to park somewhere, and then they were going to bus us in. Police were going to do this. This is what they were promising us, okay?
This is some frontline shit, man. I'm going to tell you.
Well, then last minute they were like, basically, no. Not only is that not going to happen, but we're only going to we had a permit for 300 people. They were only going to let 50 of us in. Right. I'm like, this is fucked.
Right.
So it turned into a real mess. And that day I was a mess because I was really, all of us were not the type to quit and to give up, but we didn't want to see anybody get hurt. And
the mic a little closer.
It was dangerous. So,
so you made the executive decision to just call it off? To
call it off. We did a press conference, and they had a shit show over that.
Sure.
Followed us around all day, just so that we could do our press conference.
Right.
And then the following day in Berkeley, they beat up everybody. It was a mess. That event was canceled also, but Antifa showed up. Right. And I watched video of what happened in San Francisco that day after the fact. And I was just like stunned. I was stunned that Mayor Lee would get up there with London Breed, all of them, and they all were calling me a white supremacist, but yet they never reached out to me
by name or
no. Well, the organizers, and then on the news they would post our pictures because we were doing like live streams and stuff like that. Right. So it's like you guys could have at least reached out to us and. Found out who we were. But so that was my first experience, I guess, at trying to do my own rally. And then after that, I was like, why do we need permits? We're just going to go. We'll just go march. We'll go do our thing. If it's big, like up at the Capitol, we get permits. We do that. That's fun. But some of the most memorable things have been just, grabbing our flags and walking through Berkeley or,
Right.
whatever. I mean, it's more about letting them know that we're here and we're not going anywhere.
Right.
And, you need to accept us for who we are. We're not coming through there with Nazi flags. We're not white supremacists.
Right.
We're not, going to hurt you. I mean, these people really think that I'm going to hurt their children. That, like, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
And I'm just like, I mean, they've really been brainwashed by society, by the schools, by everything, to be afraid of conservatives.
Right.
And it's sad. Because we're really not bad people.
No.
We're good people.
And that was the main goal of starting this, is not just because I do feel a lot of conservative values, or more libertarian, really. But ultimately, seeing how dehumanized conservatives are made me really bothered. Because I've actually been outside of the Bay Area. I went to Oklahoma, and there were gay kids running around and black kids and people with purple hair and shit. Like, it wasn't the end of the goddamn world. You know what I mean? Obviously, there are some places where it's not okay to be gay, or you get browbeaten or whatever the fuck.
Right.
But at least you don't get actually fucking beaten as much sometimes. But not. I mean, Matthew Shepard was a long fucking time ago. Are we gonna act like we're still in the fucking 70s? Are we gonna act like we're still in the 90s? Things have changed wildly just in a matter of a very short amount of time. And if we can't adapt and be adults, then we're just going to keep going in this same goddamn cycle. And so I wanted to have a place to humanize everybody. I mean, not everybody. I don't have actual white supremacists on the show. I mean, I talk about it. I'm a little fucking racist. I'm more racial, as Patrice O'Neill used to say. Meaning, like, I don't think Asians are good fucking drivers, okay? But that doesn't mean I hate them. That doesn't mean I want them to have their licenses taken away. I just want to make jokes about it, okay?
Right.
I just want to be able to
We used
talk
to be able
some
to
shit,
do that.
You know what I mean? That's all.
We used to be able to do
racial,
that.
But ultimately, like, I don't have actual white supremacists on the show. I have, I mean, as an example, there are a couple of fans and a couple of people who listen to my show every week. And when I've had genuine conservatives on, because sometimes I have, liberals on and musicians and comedians and all kinds of people. But when I've had genuine conservatives on, they'll say something about, well, this is great, but, do you really believe that white stuff? Do you really believe that? That's always a white liberal. It's never like a Mexican liberal or a black liberal. It's always a white liberal saying, you shouldn't say that. But then I haven't heard a fucking peep when it comes to the black Trump supporter that I had on, that I posted yesterday. Not a fucking peep. None of you white liberals are going, that black guy really shouldn't say that because you goddamn know better. It's built on your whole platform of it's just black good, white bad, duh, duh. And so now we're at the point where, like, if we, who was it, Ben Shapiro or someone was talking about the only way to actually have it change is to have a black disabled trans woman be a conservative, you know what I mean? Right. That's the only way, or maybe it was Gavin. You know what I mean? Like, what is it? What is it? How many women do you have to hear of from who don't like abortion before you allow yourself to look at the actual argument rather than who's making the argument?
I mean, there's so many different, that whole thing is just unbelievable to me. The whole abortion thing. Right. Like, I mean, I'm a woman, and, for a long time, I truly believe, and I still do believe, that women should be able medically. I don't want to see women having to go,
forced pregnancy.
Right. No,
nobody wants that.
I don't want that. But at the same time, I don't want to see these numbers that I'm seeing of how many kids are being aborted, right, when we have so many forms of birth control. Right. I mean, that's the first thing I did. I went out and got on birth control. Right. There are other things that people can do. I've lost a baby. To a miscarriage. And a lot of people don't know this about, me and my boyfriend, we were actually at the time thinking about having an abortion because So I've always struggled with my weight up and down the whole entire life. And after my son, I gained a ton of weight with my son. And so I wanted to lose weight. My doctor gave me some medicine. It was basically, it's like speed pills, I guess.
Right.
Yeah, but it's legal, right?
Right.
And he
Fucking
gave it.
Requiem for a Dream.
Right. I mean, I
Right.
forget what it was called, but he gave me this medicine. So I'm taking this medicine, and meanwhile, I'm losing weight, and I have to go in like every couple weeks to, you got to monitor me on this medicine.
Sure.
But I didn't know I was pregnant, and because my body wasn't showing any signs of it, okay? And I started gaining weight. I mean, it wasn't a lot, but it was enough to where my doctor was like, if you keep gaining, I have to take you off this medicine. Well, I didn't know I was pregnant. I totally lost it in the doctor's office, started crying. I knew at that moment, I'm like, for me to get this emotional over him telling me he's going to take this medicine away from me, something's wrong. So I went and got a pregnancy test, found out I was about almost 20 weeks pregnant. And I was pretty far along. And so we had talked, my boyfriend and I talked about it. I'm like, I've been taking this medicine. I'm afraid. I don't want to have a baby that has problems, because of something I did. So we said, you know what, before we make any final decision, we'll go see our OB and see what he has to say. Right. Unfortunately, and of course, immediately when I saw the baby, because he did an ultrasound, immediately when I saw the baby, I was like, tears rolling down my eyes. How could I, in my mind, I'm thinking, how could I ever think about aborting this child, right? And then he told me a couple of minutes later there was no heartbeat. So all in, I went from thinking I might have an abortion to no way in hell could I ever have an abortion to now we have to go, and I had to have a D&C. So it was the hardest thing in my life that I've ever had to go through. I think women who say that they don't experience any kind of emotion when they do something like that, I believe that they're lying, or they're numbing themselves with some kind of something. Right. Because and I've had, I have 2 children now, almost lost both of the ones that I have. And, my daughter Liberty's a miracle. They tried to get me to abort her. And I look at her and I think, how, she's healthy as can be.
They were trying to, because of her health issues?
Yeah. So with her, I went in when I was going to go find out what the sex was, and I had very, very little amniotic fluid. So they didn't tell me this, though. I waited for 45 minutes to an hour in a room. They wouldn't tell me what was wrong. This is in Berkeley, of all places. And yeah, I know. And, you're pregnant, you're emotional. I'm like, what the hell's going on? Right. Finally, I walk out and I'm like, if you guys don't do anything, I'm going to leave. I'm done. They come in and before she says anything to me, she gives me her condolences. And you got to understand, I don't know what's going on. Right. So tears rolling down my face. I'm like...
Was this after the miscarriage that you had had?
Yes. So I had my son, and then I had a miscarriage, and then I got pregnant with my daughter. So, I'm thinking, what's wrong? And she gives me this, condolence, and she's... Basically, they didn't give me an option. They didn't act like having my daughter was even an option, because my daughter was going to be so fucked up. Either she was going to be mentally retarded or stillborn. That's basically what they told me my chances were. Right. So my dad was still alive at the time. I was by myself. I had to have my boyfriend come pick me up. Like, it was such a mess. I was so upset that day. And I got on the phone with my dad, and my dad's like, Lindsay, because I'm like, I don't want to have a stillborn baby. I mean, that would just be, My dad's like, Lindsay, whatever God gives us, we will handle together as a family. And that just calmed me down. And I knew right then and there, even if Liberty's stillborn, there's a reason for it. And I have the support. You know what I mean? That's all I needed to hear. Right. And I look at her now and I think, my God, like, what if I would have listened to what if I didn't have a family support system and I would have listened to those doctors, and here's this beautiful child.
I had one of the friends of the show. She's been on 3 times now. She's anonymous. Mm-hmm. She's affectionately called the Good Girl. It's very perverted shows. Go look them up. But
I think I've seen. I think I started. Yeah, I think you have. Yeah.
The 3rd time she was on, she told a story about being 15 and having an unplanned pregnancy, not knowing she was pregnant until she was already. They thought, and then she had, I think, what was it? She's listening right now. She's gonna be bothered with me. I don't remember you, bitch. Calm down, all right? But she feels better that I called her that. But she had a health issue. They took her to the doctor. They tell her, first she's pumped in through all this pain medication, and then they tell her she's pregnant. Mm-hmm. But here's what we're gonna do, and we're gonna give you an abortion. Blah, blah, while we're in there taking, I think it was an appendix or something like that. And her mom's like, whoa, what? You can't just say like, yeah, no, we're gonna give you an abortion. It's like, well, no. Hang on. This seems to be a common experience, that the doctors, the way they're set up is to automatically assume that you're going to get an abortion. Automatically assume. And maybe it's because of the financial, I don't go full Alex Jones when it comes to that.
Neither do I.
But even if it's well-intentioned, that's none of your fucking business. You know what I mean? If you're all rah about woman's right to choose, then let the fucking woman choose it. Don't be a doctor, an abortion doctor, and just assume you're the morality of I know what's best, because already I've heard stories of women. There's a couple of great YouTube videos and Facebook videos out there of women who were supposed to be aborted and have survived.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
It's brought me to tears. It's brought me to tears. Ever since my daughter, what happened with my daughter, and then seeing what they're doing now with the abortion laws, I've been trying to be outspoken, because I can, as a woman, I can understand, being afraid, and especially, having children. That's probably one of the scariest things ever in your life that you're ever going to experience. No one's ever prepared, I don't think, ever to have a child. You can prepare, and you're still not prepared. But, I think that, like I said earlier, there's too many forms of birth control for abortion to be used as a form of birth control. Right. So that's the first thing. Second thing, I have no problem if the pregnancy is affecting the health of the mother, sure, and that's something that the family, again, that's up to them. Right. And I think women should be able to make that choice. But I also think, I don't like the fact that they've taken fathers out of it. Mm-hmm. Okay. Like, nobody ever talks about the fathers. Nope. And I saw a video the other day that brought me to tears of some kid outside of an abortion clinic crying, begging his girlfriend not to get an abortion. She went in and got the abortion, and he was, right out on the ground crying. People were like consoling him. What about the fathers? What about their right? Like, I understand that it's a woman's body, but what about their right to that child? And what rights does that child have in the womb? That's what bothers me the most. Yeah, because there is, I can tell you, I have family that has had children that have been born. My cousin's daughter was born just over 6 months old. Because it was a emergency type thing, and she was in neonatal for a long time. But she's my son's age now, healthy, survived everything. So for them to tell me that that's not a child, and for them to be willing to kill that baby up till the day that baby's due date, that's a problem. To me, that's murder. Right. That's murder.
I kind of feel like it's that similar thing where and most of the people I've talked to who are pro choice, whether they be women or men, are also agreeing that 9 months is a little fucking much. Yeah. And I'm also on the side that 6 weeks is a little short. You were talking about not even knowing you were pregnant until you were 20. Yeah. 20 weeks. So that same thing, it's like, all right, let's have a conversation about it. Don't take away my ability to conversate about it just because I have a dick. Right. Whether I'm invested in the baby or not, meaning I don't have, it's not my son or my daughter. But also, the baby itself is a baby. Yeah. I'm fine, even first trimester is kind of where I kind of sit as like, okay, that seems about appropriate, or somewhere around there to make that decision. But do call it what it is. Don't call it, it's just a useless clump of cells. Sandra Bernhard has that joke, when I had my when I had my abortion, I loved every minute of it. Like, calm the fuck down, Sandra. Like I had two women when I posted about being pro-life. feeling pro-life and being honestly bothered by it. I was like, wait, am I actually pro-life? Ew.
I
You
know.
what I mean? My whole life I've been like, these fucking pro-lifers.
Yeah,
you know,
I
they're
know.
cat ladies.
Blowing up abortion clinics. You know what I
Right.
mean? I
When
thought about that too.
When I started feeling like that, I posted about it on my Instagram, and I had 2 women who were like, I seriously disagree with you. And I was like, okay. Number one, I know these 2 women, and they know I'm not a piece of shit, so we were willing to have that conversation. And number 2, both of them, when I did gently say, like, okay, well, you know, do you feel like, you know, it's not a baby and that I shouldn't have a say in it because I have a dick, like I shouldn't even be allowed to talk about it? And both of them, even though they came into that Instagram post mad, ready to, like, you know, hey, I disagree, but both of them said, no, number one, it is a baby.
Yeah.
When I had my abortion, it was fucking traumatic. And number 2, I don't think you shouldn't be allowed to be in the conversation because you're a man.
Right.
You
Both,
know?
I agree. And a woman that gets up there like Sandra Bernhard and says that it was wonderful. I've seen women hold up signs, my abortion was wonderful, thank you. Right. That's probably their way of dealing with the hurt that they feel. Because me having my miscarriage, just all those emotions, it still bothers me. Right. So, you know, going through that, because what I had to go through an abortion without them luckily, you know, I would have never had a real abortion, but I went through that. I know exactly what the women what they go through, you know, and I went through that whole experience. I actually started having panic attacks for the first time in my life. Had no idea what one was until it happened to me, and I couldn't breathe. I mean, my boyfriend was like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Right.
And I couldn't breathe. I didn't know what was wrong.
Right.
And my doctor was like, you know, you're getting panic attacks. It doesn't surprise me. This just happened to you. But, I mean, it really affected me. And so for a woman to say it doesn't either, I mean, and I do see, I've seen videos where they really downplay the whole procedure, process, everything. Right. They don't give the girls the type of counseling, I think, that maybe they should have. Right. I believe, and my son's 12 years old. I firmly believe that kids his age, if they're old enough to go through sex education in the schools here in California, then they're old enough to watch the movie Unplanned.
Yeah, it was a great movie.
Yeah, and to see.
I mean, I kind of felt like it was a little movie, you know, after school special movie. But
well, yeah,
still,
no, I agree.
For the money they had, they made a good movie.
They did good, considering, and I think kids need to see the consequences of, you know, everyone says, you know, on the conservative side, abstinence. I'm like, yeah, absolutely, you want to push that, but that doesn't happen these days.
Right.
So you got to.
It didn't happen back in the 50s neither.
No, well, I mean, and my parents were a little bit more realistic with me. I mean, right. I was raised in private schools. I went to Christian schools, but I went home and my parents were like, you know, they didn't bullshit me. They didn't keep me in a box. I was, you know, well aware of what was out there, what my options were, what was available to me. Right. And I plan to be the same with my children, be as open as possible, because I don't want them to be in that position where they feel like, you know, they have to have an abortion, or, you know what I mean? Right. And frankly, I don't think they should be thinking about this shit anyways, the sex ed in schools and all that crap. Right. I'm so against it. I mean, that's why I homeschool my son. But I won't be able to homeschool my daughter. She, you know, younger ones are a little harder. But I mean, the stuff that they're teaching in schools is just unbelievable, but it's all part of the indoctrination. Right. And again, for me, it all goes back. And I know, like, for people who don't, like, people always ask me, Lindsay, when were you red pilled? I'm like, I was never red pilled, because I never was. I grew up in this. I've known about this all my life. Right. And Bill Ayers and Bernardine Dorn, these weathermen, I mean, basically what they've done is they've inserted themselves in the academia, and not just, I mean, first it was just colleges, but one of my friends is actually a teacher over in Berkeley, and the new courseware that's coming out in grade schools, Bill Ayers is one of the authors of these books. Yeah. So these people,
creepy fucks.
And my dad and I, we used to talk about this. I told my dad, I was like, because we used to talk about, you know, kids in their 20s and how, like, you know, when you're in your teens, you think you're invincible. And when you're in your 20s, you know, you do things because you know, a lot of people, when they're in their teens and 20s, a lot of people are more liberal or more Democrat because, you know, you want to believe that the world can be changed and, you know, and all these things, right?
Still running on feelings too.
Exactly.
You know, it's normal.
So, you know, there's all that. The whole, you know, starting out that way, but then, you know, then you get in your, you know, late 20s, early 30s, and you start to change the way you think and stuff a little bit. I think the Weathermen did a lot of that. I think that they realized that in their, you know, teens and 20s, the bombs wasn't working. And so if they really wanted to take over the government, it was to take it over from the inside and to infiltrate every institution. And that's what they've done. And that's why I told you earlier, you got to watch Hillary's America by Dinesh D'Souza. I just saw it the other day for the first time, and it really explains a lot of it.
Where is it available? Just online
You can go on
somewhere?
Amazon. It's on Amazon Prime right now. Yeah. Very, very good. But it really explains, because Hillary, I mean, that was Hillary's whole thing. She was, you know, Saul Alinsky was her mentor. And she basically took Saul Alinsky's model, which Obama did the same thing. And but she wanted to take it a step further. And it's really, really good. And to infiltrate the government from the inside out. And that's basically what's happened.
Right.
That's what I believe.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately going forward, I feel like being willing to do the fight is important, but doing it the right way.
What do you think? I like to hear everyone's take on it, because everyone has different takes, and I don't think one answer's right.
You mean the fight going forward?
Yeah.
Here's the thing. If you're listening right now, you need to be subscribing to the fucking channel and sharing this with your friends.
Share it.
Or I'll find you and I will murder you.
Share it.
But as long as I'm allowed to speak. Number one, I know I'm a good enough musician, singer, performer, entertainer, podcaster, comedian, all that shit, because I'm just amazing. I know that I'm entertaining enough to, once people get me in their hands and in their experience, they enjoy me. What bothers the fuck out of me is that the Instagram, the YouTube, the Facebook, the Google is doing this stuff to not let people get a hold of me. That's what bothers me. And I'm not exactly sure how to fight it the right way, because I even went, I talked about it a few episodes ago, where I went to Instagram headquarters and I was like, hey, you know, my hashtags have stopped working. I know I know I didn't tell them right at the desk, but I was like, I know it's because, you know, I use the hashtag, I know it's because I'm conservative, like, or conservatish or whatever. You know, do you have a tech support people I can talk to? Do you have a customer service where I can, and they were like, no, but here, you can fill out this little form, and we'll get back to you. It's been fucking 4 weeks. They have not got back to me. They're not going to. It's just like reporting a problem on the Instagram app, but doing it in Menlo Park. And so I did that, and doing it through their channels is not working. You know, Project Veritas is doing their best, but, like, you know, making this big stink is really doing its best, but, like, and I know, I mean, I've only been doing this podcast since August. I don't have any. You do have to be more consistent, just like I am every week, Monday and fucking Thursday, like an asshole. I'm putting it out there. I'm performing. I'm doing the work. I'm moving to New York in order to just do it the right way. But I don't know if there's more, like, on the boots on the ground type of stuff I can do. I mean, I know that there's some more catchy videos I can do and, like, you know, make a big stink, but ultimately, I also, I'm not afraid personally of getting in fights and things like that. But when it affects other people, so, like, as an example, from your experience, you're not afraid to be scrappy. But you do have to do it smart because you got kids.
I know. I have to be very careful.
And I don't know.
It's hard.
I don't know.
It's hard. My family hates it. I'm just throw it out there. My family absolutely hates it. It creates a lot of rift between me and my boyfriend. We have 2 kids together. We've been together a long time.
Is it because he doesn't believe the same things, or because
he believes the same things?
Okay, he just doesn't want you to be out on the front lines.
Yeah, he's always been worried about that. Being my dad's daughter, I mean, he's known my dad. I've known my boyfriend since we were in high school, And then we kind of parted ways, and we were just friends back then. But anyways, ended up together. So he's known my family for a long time.
Right.
And so he knew going into this. I mean, he was with us at some protests, but like myself, none of us ever saw it getting to what it's getting. And I believe it's going to get worse. I really do. I believe the closer we get to the election, the more you're going to see these Democrats spiraling out of control. And they're not even really Democrats. They really aren't. They're
just
they're
career
radicals.
politicians, that's all.
Well, them, but the ones that are on the street that are the violent ones.
Yeah.
The career politicians, you're right. I mean, they're a joke.
Right.
But the ones that are on the street, the ones that are, you have people like Maxine Waters who are encouraging people to be violent with me, for wearing a hat. And I think it's going to get worse. I think Trump's son got spit on the other night.
Right.
I just see it getting worse and worse, at least until the election. After the election, when he wins, I think it's going to continue. They're not. They want to impeach him. They want to, stop anything that he's doing, the wall, anything that man tries to do to try to help this country is wrong. They want to stop it. I've never seen anything like it. That's why I ask people all the time, well, what do you think? What do you think we should do? Because, I kind of came from where my dad was, I always call it, my dad was hanging with the suits and, doing interviews with the people like Hannity and stuff like that. Those were more suit type stuff.
Right.
And then here, but he was also out there, at protests and stuff. But I always thought that it's got to be a combination of the two. That's one of the problems that the Republican Party has always had, is that they're too damn quiet.
Right.
We'll vote, and then we're going to sit, and go to our dinner parties in our country club.
Right.
And, and so everyone thinks that the Republicans are snooty, racist, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Rich snobs, basically, and which is not the case.
Right. They're just more boring than anything.
It's very boring. I've been to a lot of the conventions, and they are very boring. So there's a group of us that can be fun. We're bringing some fun to the Republican Party.
I'm down with Chuck Norris doing karate, but having him talk at a convention, come on, stop.
You need people that, and my dad, one of the things my dad said, he used to get on me because I've always dyed my hair, different colors, and he used to make fun of me. He used to tell me, he'd be like, Lindsay, if you want people to take you seriously, you gotta get normal. And I'm like, well, then I'm never gonna have anyone take me seriously. But in the last year of his life, and of course he didn't know he was dying. It was surprise. So, but the last time I spent time with him, he told me he was just like, he's all, you're right. He's all, it's time the Republican Party, they need to change. Because I told him, I said, they need to accept me. I said, I'm more conservative than half of them. Honestly, I've talked with some of these people, right. and I have some more conservative values than they do. But I also have some liberal ideas. I think that's part of living here in the Bay Area.
Right.
I'm very well-rounded.
Absolutely.
And, my green hair shouldn't scare anybody, And if they don't like it, that's too damn bad. And so when I go to the Republican convention, I make sure I dye my hair blue, or you know what I mean, right before I go.
Right.
I make sure that, I'll wear a dress, if it's something nice or whatever. But I'm not going to change who I am for that party. Because in my opinion, they need to change who they are for we the people.
You know what I think it is? And maybe this is an epiphany of some kind, but... Remember, one of the only movies that's ever made me cry is Milk. Dumb Sean Penn. As much as I dislike his politics, I'm grateful that he's a great fucking actor.
He is.
And Harvey Milk's story was really important. One of the things that Milk talked about in that movie, and I'm sure, I guess, in real life, was what helped the gay cause was people coming out of the closet.
Yep.
What helped the gay cause was Milk saying, if they know that they know one of us, if they're super anti-gay and then their son comes out, or their mailman comes out, or their, the checker at the supermarket that they really like, if she comes out, if all this, suddenly it becomes like, oh man, I guess I do know. And you start to see them as humans, and everything starts to shift and more acceptance happens.
Yep.
that's part of the reason why I'm willing to not be a martyr to the point of like, all right, I'll die, you know, but I'm willing to be out there being like, yeah, I'm kind of conservative in some ways, and you know me, you know what I mean? And I've started to open up these doors because I did music in the hip hop community for a long time. I've been in the gay community for a long time, all that stuff. And I've started to open up these doors of people who were like, as soon as they saw the fucking name of the show, Conservatish, they were like,
yeah,
you know, I don't know. I have ex-girlfriends who love me to death, who would do anything for me, who buy me T-shirts, you know, but just because they love me, you know, because I dick them down correctly, but also because they, you know, they like my music and they want to support me, you know, even though we're not together. And I have had two ex-girlfriends who I had that relationship with who still have not listened to the fucking show because of the goddamn name. You know what I mean? Like, I've had this experience where over and over, this is once they know me as, okay, well, he's not a piece of shit. I know that. I've spent time with him. I've broken bread with him. I've done shows with him. I've dated him. Blah, 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 blah. But he still kind of isn't all that angry about guns, you know, or he still, even though he likes gays, he also is a little weird about, you know, abortion. Like, oh, okay, maybe this is. So I feel like our coming out is an important thing.
It's
you know
huge.
what I mean? It's our coming out, even though they're going to be fidgety about it and they Instagram and Facebook are going to want to snip it off at the butt. It's too late. There's already a movement happening, and it's ultimately a movement for free speech. I'm not rah Christian, and I'm not rah this or rah that. I just let us fucking talk, stop with the violence, and I'm allowed to vote any way I'd like.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And so are you. You know,
Yes.
You can easily vote for being angry at Pete Feliciano and just stopping listening to this podcast, you know, or whatever. You have that right, you know. But I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing, you know.
Good. Because people, I mean, we need this. We need more people, you know, regular people, not these. I mean, people look at conservatives, again, they think that they're the suits, the snobs, the rich people. They're not.
Right.
There's a lot of us out there that are normal, everyday people that like 9 Inch Nails.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
That like to go out and have a good time, and we're not racist.
No.
I have friends that are gay.
Right.
One of my best friends is trans, Amber. I love her to death. And you know what I mean? And it's like, it's funny though, because like, you know, going through Christian school, like that was like one of the biggest, I mean, I was raised in a total Christian school.
Right.
So that was what I got from them. It was like, you can't be gay. You will go to hell. You shouldn't be friends with them, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
I never looked upon them like I hated them, but I never purposely went out and made friends with anyone in the LGBT until I started working at Hot Topic.
You have to be friends with
right.
people who work
I had
at
people.
Hot
Well, I was a manager, and I had a guy who was working, you know, for me, and he was gay. I loved him to death, Richard, and he's passed away, but I loved it. He was the first one, and I hung out with them. And I absolutely loved him to death. And I introduced him to my dad. And, you know, normally, I mean, I would have never done that, you know, before. But it was like, but my dad, he was like, I don't give a shit about what people do behind closed doors. He's like, I don't care. And I'm the same way. I don't give a shit. There's a lot. And actually, when I went down to the Republican convention in February, it was in Sacramento. There's a lot of people in the LGBT that are delegates in the Republican Party. So that is huge. Right. That is huge because that community, I mean, I've had a lot of people in that community that when I go out, you know, they're like, you know, you hate me because I'm gay. And when I was in Arizona, someone said that to me and I was like, my best friend is trans. Right. And they were like, straight up, I got it on video. They're like, well, that doesn't count. Right. So.
Dude, I'm sorry, but the black friend defense absolutely fucking counts. It absolutely matters because I'm effectively showing you that I see them as humans. I'm effectively showing you that I don't see them the way you think I see them.
Right.
It's a perfect defense.
Right. And I mean, and I go out with Amber, we do things together all the time. You can watch live streams with me and her together. I'm like, that's my friend. That doesn't count. Right. I'm like, I can't talk to you. Right, you know, then the conversation ends with those people. Because obviously, clearly, They tell, when we're out, people like Will Johnson. You know who Will Johnson is, right?
I'm friends with him on Facebook. I don't know why.
Okay, he's
I've just had a bunch of conservatives just
you have a lot of conservatives
find me on Facebook. I'm like, oh, okay, I guess
so Will Johnson was one of the guys that we did, or that I worked with, to do the Chrissy Field rally. He's black.
Okay.
He's done things for Alex Jones and InfoWars the last few months. But anyways, he's had people flat out like say to him, you're a white supremacist.
He's black.
He's black. I'm like, I'm used to them saying that to me, and it's like, okay, fine. I'm not even going to argue with that. I mean, I know I'm not, but whatever. I look, I guess, out of everyone here, I look like it. But Will's black. How does that roll over? Like, I just don't, the logic, the things that are going on and the things that are being said, it's so out there. It doesn't make sense. It's gotten really crazy. And like I said, I never thought I'd see it get this crazy. I thought it was crazy when they called my dad racist back, 10 years ago. It used to really bother me because I knew that we weren't racist people. Right. But they called us that, and it was like, okay, whatever. But I see now, because after a while, people really do start to see you that way. If you say it enough, that group really, truly, it's like a brainwashing type thing, And it sucks. And I'm glad that there's people like you that are willing to do this, because we're not like that at all. So
I guess my niche, I was thinking about it because I'm self-centered, but I was my niche, because what helped me, and I hope he comes back, is even though there are some things I really disagree that he says or jokes that he makes, I hope Milo comes back. He was my nirvana. Okay, he was my gateway drug to this whole thing, because he was like, everyone on Facebook, he's the devil, and I was like, okay, let me just research a little bit. Just watched like literally 2 or 3 videos, and I was like, I like this piece of shit. You know what I mean? So and then I feel like it's Super Friends, where like if you need somebody who's like who knows law and can get in there and talk really fast, you need Ben Shapiro. You know what I mean? If you need somebody who's Canadian and knows that healthcare system and blah blah, you get a Steven Crowder. If you want someone who's an intellectual, you get a Jordan Peterson. If you want a comedian, you get a Joe Rogan. I'm like Ben Shapiro. Well, maybe not. I'm like the Steven Crowder who makes race jokes. You know what I mean? Like, he makes a couple, but like I go full on free speech. I utilize it very, very well. Who also talks? I've had perverts on it. I talk about bestiality porn. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like a Steven
that's okay
Crowder
now.
with bestiality porn.
That's okay now in Canada. I read something yesterday.
Oh, really? Bestiality porn?
Yeah, well, not porn. No, actual. Like, I guess there was a guy. I was reading it yesterday. It came up in my feed. Well, apparently, I won't go into details, but basically, it's not a felony or whatever, however they do it in Canada.
Okay, all right.
I was like, interesting. Okay, whatever. But you know what? You're right. Because one of the things my dad,
lonely way up at the top there. You gotta fuck a moose from time to time. There's nothing to do. There's no bowling alleys. You gotta fuck a moose. Anyway, so.
But it's true. The whole free speech thing. This has been something that they've been trying to take away from us for a long time. And it started, I remember being in high school, the political correctness. And my dad said that is a problem. He used to get so angry. He was like, I am not going to be politically correct. And, people would get like upset with him and they would say, you're nuts, Larry, Right. But now look at it. The political, you can't say, it's okay for them to say certain things, but it sure as hell ain't okay for me to say anything anymore. So I say it all. Say it all that you want to say, and say it proud, loud, whatever you want to say. Right. Let them know they're not going to get rid of your free speech. And that's something that really we have to fight for, because what the hell is a free speech zone?
Right.
What the fuck is a free speech? I didn't learn that until just this last couple of years when I started doing rallies, and I was like, are you kidding me? They have zones on college campuses for free speech.
And I think ultimately here's what it is for me. And then we should probably wrap up a little bit. But one of the things for me is that I ultimately believe that this is why safe zones are. This podcast is a safe space for free speech. The reason why it's going to work out is because I ultimately believe we are stronger than the way we're acting. So, yes, And don't get me wrong, I'm very pessimistic in a lot of other ways, but I think when I sit back and I think about it, I believe that people can handle free speech. I believe that people can handle jokes. I believe that black people can handle black jokes. I believe that it's okay for me to have my opinion about something and have it not completely shatter someone's world because I came somewhere to speak, or because I put out a podcast episode, or because I sang a song. People are stronger than the way we've been acting, and that gives me hope. And so that, with that in tow, that's where I think is really the guiding principle, or one of the guiding principles of my whole shindig, is that, okay, you know what? I'm going to act like you can handle it. And so if that's the case, that's now me entrusting my audience and the humans who watch me or listen to me or whatever, subscribe, please. But I'm imbuing them with a certain respect. What happens with last night with those Democrats and the night before speaking Spanish is a lack of respect. It's an ultimate disrespect, because they think I'm so shallow that I'll go, oh, he spoke Spanish, he believes it. He's not. They're not even pandering to the Mexicans, because Mexicans can smell bullshit.
Right.
You know what I mean? They're like, ew, you're trying to sell to me? Fuck you. You know what I mean? And so I'm trying to treat my audience and everybody with a modicum of respect, to say, you know what? I know you can handle it, and I'm going to treat you like an adult.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that if we keep moving and keep trying different ways, we're going to be all right. You know,
We just have to keep pushing.
right.
That's how I look at it. Keep pushing. Keep doing what you're doing.
Where can people find your stuff?
I'm on Facebook, Lindsay Grathwohl, Facebook. If you want to read a good book, Bringing Down America, that's Larry Grathwohl. It's available on Amazon.
Is it on Audible? I usually only listen to books.
I think, I don't know.
right,
I don't
read it.
know. I don't know.
I like reading.
I
So
don't
continue.
know. I'm actually, I'm supposed to be getting some shipped to me. So if I get a case, I'll give you one. Because I'm supposed to be,
Appreciate.
yeah.
Thank you.
But so there's that.
Bringing Down America.
Bringing Down America. There's the Antifa documentary, America Under Siege. That is on Dangerous Documentaries on YouTube for free. If you can go see Hillary's America, it's on Amazon Prime.
Awesome.
Very, very good. But yeah, I'm just on Facebook. I'm very technically behind, like I'm technically challenged.
Yeah.
So I'm like video stuff like that. I'm live stream. I'm like, you'll see like my phone's like shaking the whole time.
Right. I haven't gotten one of those little handheld devices that keeps it all steady either.
Yeah, I don't have any of that, but I'm working at it. I'm trying to actually put something together so that when, because I do believe Facebook is probably going to get rid of me at some point. They've already, today my live stream won't work on my page. I don't know why. I haven't done anything.
Fun.
So I'm trying to put together a website where, me and maybe a couple other people can upload our stuff and keep active.
Yeah, I see Jordan Peterson, I think, started one recently. I've got a friend who is quite rich, and he's going to be, I think, possibly starting a social media. I'll keep you posted about that. But I also am interested in maybe Gab.com or Telegram. Jeffrey was talking about.
I'm on Telegram. Okay. So I got a Telegram. Lindsay Grathwohl. I have Facebook, of course. I have Twitter. I barely use it. Parler. Right. Parler's like the new Twitter. Go on it. Sign up. Yes, you got to. Yes.
Okay.
That is like everybody who's conservative is leaving Twitter and going to Parler, and there's a lot of people on there right now.
Okay,
so
cool.
You'll be able to and it works a lot like Twitter. Very, very similar. I do have a Periscope. I'm trying to think of what else I have. I think that's pretty much it. But yeah, you can find me right now on Facebook.
Do you have any events upcoming?
I'm going to be doing a Trump rally here in the city.
Nice.
I don't have a date yet, but I'll keep you all posted.
If it's before September, let me know, because I'm leaving for New York end of September. But,
okay. Well, we're planning on doing it in 2 stages.
Okay.
So yeah, hopefully we'll get one done, because there's the election coming up for mayor of San Francisco. So we'll probably do it before November.
If you need a musician.
That'd be good. Yeah. I'm looking at doing it. I would like to do it at City Hall. That's what I would like to do.
That'd be fun.
So, looking at doing, Chesa Boudin, I'll be following him around. I don't know if you're aware of him living here in San Francisco. Something that you guys need to know, those of you that live in the Bay Area, Chesa Boudin, running for San Francisco DA. He is the son of the Weather Underground. Don't vote for him. Look him up. Chesa Boudin.
Chesa
He's
Boudin,
the son. He was raised by Bill Ayers and Bernadine Dorn. He's the son of Kathy Boudin and David Gilbert, who killed guys who were driving an armored car. They robbed it in New York. You look it up online, you'll find it. But anyways, Chesa is actively right now running for DA here in San Francisco.
Okay.
And so my mission is I'm planning on confronting him. My dad tried confronting Bill Ayers,
Right.
and Bill ran. So I'm going to see if I can get Chesa. Yeah, so there is going to be a debate in August.
Okay.
So I'm going to see if I can get into the debate.
Nice.
And but yeah, don't vote for him. If you don't believe me, look him up. He's a commie.
Yeah. You can find me, first things first, new episode every Monday and Thursday, but you won't know that because Instagram and Facebook are like, ooh, don't listen. We know better than you. So you better subscribe right now on YouTube. Hit the little bell down there. Or on Spotify, iTunes, SoundCloud, Google Play. Leave us a review, all that bullshit. Also, you can support this podcast at patreon.com/conservatish. The biggest news, August 17th, you need to be at Brick and Mortar Music Hall in San Francisco. It's a giant album release party. I've got Poya Del Mar, the famous San Francisco drag queen, is going to MC. I've got DJ Kevy Kev, who's a legendary hip-hop DJ, is going to spin after I'm done with my full band. And it's going to be fucking huge, and I need all of you there because I'm desperate. And I'm also very good, but I'm also probably almost as desperate as I am good. And you can find me on Instagram at Peter_Feliciano. Yeah, YouTube at youtube.com/Rule62Pete. Twitter at Rule62Peter or something like that. And I love you all very much. And anything else?
I don't think so. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much.
Really fucking appreciate it.
I could be here for hours.
I know, me too.
Yeah.
Look at all the fucking snacks I got.
I know.
See, if you come on my show, you get snacks.
You get snacks.
Perrier, bitch, because we're high class.
And it's fun. It's fun. So
I know, I'm a treat. Anyway, bye everybody.
Bye, guys.